r/nosleep. Hosted by you/JJX. Don't go exploring abandoned hospitals. I haven't had a good night of sleep in 5 years. I can't even forgive myself sometimes for what I did. My name is Danny, and I have a terrifying experience to get off my chest. I always wanted to fit in with my friend group, but no matter what I do, I was always the odd one out. But one thing I had in common with everyone was I am a horror fanatic. That's what got me into the group, at least. See, if I wasn't a big horror fan, I wouldn't be in the group. I didn't have any siblings growing up. I was mainly alone during my childhood while my mother worked long-hour shifts. My love for horror came at a very young age for me. When I was scavenging my mother's closet for something to play with, I stumbled across an old dust-covered box. It was full to the brim of old horror movies. I was hooked seeing all the gore and killing the horror movies portrayed. It made me feel better about my lack of human communication and social status. My friend group consisted of 4, Zara, Hayden, Tammy, and myself. I was the black sheep of the friend group, mainly because I rarely talked to any of them. One day, we sat in the far side of the cafeteria near the corner. Sharing cringe horror was our specialty, especially Tammy. Tammy was the bold one out of our small friend circle. She always wanted to paranormal games like Bloody Mary, the elevator game, and so on and so on. Hayden was the typical prankster and all-around jerk. One time he pranked a kid by inviting her to a fake birthday party. When she eventually found out the party invitation was fake, she tried to stab him, but that's another story for another time. There isn't too much to say about Zara. She barely talks to anyone. She lets her long shaggy brown hair cover her face and ghostly pale skin. She's a genuinely an okay person. Rumors floated around the school of a abandoned mental hospital recently caught fire last night. I wasn't too keen on exploring places, especially abandoned hospitals, but I couldn't say I was scared. Tammy would never let me live it down. Tammy was the first one to address the rumors. She slammed her fist against the table, looking up at us with a big grin on her face. As she pushed her glasses up on her freckled full face, she spoke in an interested tone. "Guys, have you heard the rumors?" Hayden set his Sprite-can down and wiped his mouth with his wrist. "What rumors, Tam?" he asked, raising a brow to her question. Her grin grew bigger and reached in her pocket for her phone. She shoved her phone into Hayden's face and he grabbed her phone to read what was on the screen. I leaned over some to catch a glimpse of what he was reading. His big brawny shoulders nearly blocked the view of the phone. He handed Tammy her phone back and rubbed his face. She looked at us with an excited look and shook in her seat, while trying not to fall out the chair. "After school, we're going to that abandoned hospital," she said with authority as she looked at our reactions. I gave her a weirded out look and started shaking my head no. Wait, let me get this straight. You want us to go to an abandoned hospital for what exactly?" I asked while I turned my body to face hers. "For my YouTube channel, duh. What's with all the questions, Dan? Are you in or out?" she asked with a grin on her face. Hayden and Zara turned to face me and waited for my response. I slowly turned my head back towards Tammy and slowly nodded my head. "Yes. Do you know how many views we're going to get from this video?" she yelled at me while shaking my body around. She leapt up from her chair and grabbed her things. She left a list of everything we would need. I left everything to Zara and Hayden as I left the cafeteria. I walked out the school building and walked over toward the bike rack. I unhooked my bike and started biking back home. As I pedaled home, the abandoned hospital couldn't leave my mind. All I could think about all the germs and diseases in that disgusting place. Looking back at it now, I should have backed out and pretended to be sick. But knowing Hayden and Tammy, they wouldn't let me live it down. As I got to my drive-thru, I got off my bike and walked up to the side of my house and parked my bike on the side of the house. I walked up to my front door and flipped over the welcome mat and grabbed the small bronzed colored key. As I opened the door, the cold air blasted my face and I walked in. I sat my bag on the ground and walked to the refrigerator. A pink sticky note was left on the refrigerator door. "Working late again, won't be back until 2:30. Love, Mom." I sighed in relief as I was alone home. I walked over toward my computer and signed it and went straight to Google. I searched up the abandoned hospital and read the articles about it. At least over 30 people died there. Horrible experiments were ran on the patients, no proper health care, harsh living conditions, abuse, the list goes on. When the public got wind of what the hospital, they wanted everyone involved dead. The owner, William D. Harris, was put on trial. He bought out the judge and he was hit with a slap on the wrist. Soon after trial, William was found with his body torn to shreds in his own hospital. Ever since the day of his death, the hospital was abandoned and out of use. I turned the computer off and checked my phone. 6:35. My phone screen read back to me. Shit, I'd better start heading my way over there, I said to myself. While digging through the kitchen drawer, I grabbed the flashlight. Before leaving, I walked toward the cabinet and grabbed a pack of fruit snacks before heading out. As I stepped out the house and shutting the door behind me, I grabbed my bike and pedaled toward the back roads. While pedaling toward the location of the abandoned hospital, I checked around me, nothing but big tall trees and forest. As the sky grew dark, the air became thick and dense. The air was heavy. Like bricks were placed onto my chest. As I got toward the entrance to the hospital, everyone was already set and ready. Finally, for a second there we thought you backed out, Tammy cackled as she set up her camcorder. I sat my bike down against a tree and walked over toward Hayden as he dug into his blue bag. What you looking for? I asked, glancing at his bag. Hayden grabbed and pulled out a handgun out of his bag. I wasn't a gun person, so I didn't know. He cocked it back and shoved it into his waistband and looked up at me. Dude, what the actual fuck? I replied while taking a step back. Just gotta have it just in case, don't know what sicko could be in there, you know? There's probably no need for it, dude, Jesus. Just don't have it pointed at someone, please, I said with worry in my voice. I slowly backed up from Hayden and slowly walked myself toward Tammy. Hey, Tam. I was interrupted by Tammy shoving her camcorder into my arms. Here, you're my cameraman for this video. All you need to do is keep the camera on me and record until we get into the building. Got it? I slowly nodded at her question, before putting the camera back on her. Record. Now she pointed both fingers toward me. I pressed the small switch on the camcorder and pointed it toward Tammy's direction. I quickly shot her a quick thumbs up. She got a little closer and stared into the camcorder. Alright YouTube, it's your girl Tam 4 Horror, and today we're here at Williams D Mental Hospital. And we are going to play a game of hide and seek. I slowly turned the camcorder toward the decrepit building. The building looked like it went through hell and back. The once scarlet red hospital once was a place for redemption for the unstable turned hellhole. The building was old and run down. The raggedy building stood up on a small hill with old rotting cracked stone steps leading to the hospital. The hospital had eerie feeling to it, like it generated bad aura. I'm not a spiritual person, not in the slightest, but don't you get a gut feeling not to do something but your mind says yes? I wanted to follow my gut feeling and drop the camcorder and bike it all the way to my house. But I couldn't. We slowly made our way toward the hospital's entrance. The stench from the building was gut-wrenching. The door frames were covered top to bottom in moss and unknown black spots. As we entered the building, the atmosphere changed drastically. The air felt heavier and more thick. It was harder to breathe for me. And with every step we took deeper into the hospital, the damp ground made squish and splash sounds like we were stepping in rain puddles. Doesn't this look sick, guys? She yelled out into the spiral steps going up. I turned the camera on the old raggedy steps and used my free hand to shine my flashlight on the rust-covered stairs. Whoa, this is trippy for it to be an old building. It's still standing when it's rotting from the inside out, I said, facing toward Hayden and Zara. Alrighty, guys, it's time to play hide and seek. Who's going to go first? She asked around, looking at everyone in the small circle. Zara slowly raised her hand to volunteer. I'll go, she muttered softly. Tammy jumped up with excitement and snatched the camera out of my hands and shoved it into Zara's chest. Count to 50. And if you find us, we have to help you look for the others, Tammy explained to Zara before running down the hall into slight darkness. Zara started her count, and I started running down the opposite hallway from Tammy. Hayden followed Tammy in pursuit. As Zara got to 20, I was a good distance from her. I shined my flashlight against the wall. All the dirt and muck covered the white walls with dirty, dingy flowers. I looked around the hallway and saw 2 doors on each side of the hallway. I opened the door on the right and closed the door behind me, looking around the room. A patient's bed in the far left corner and a cabinet on the far right side of the room. A small stench of mud and must filled the air, and the rug in the room damp with dirt water from recent flooding. As minutes in the somewhat decent-sized room, I heard a light sound of metal dragging against the wall down the hall from the room I was in. I slowly got to my knees to crawl over towards the door to cause less noise. Putting my right eye against the small keyhole, I looked around the best I could. The dragging of metal stopped mere inches away from me. I quickly turned my flashlight off and was consumed by complete darkness. A scraping noise came from the other side of the door, then slowly to the door handle. As the door handle twisted and turned, I quickly ran over toward the bed and slid under it. The door pushed open, 2 big pairs of gray-looking feet walked into the room. It sniffed the dim, dirty air before saying in a deep demonic tone, "I smell you, little one. I just want a bite." I covered my mouth to stop my harsh breathing. The figure slowly turned around and stepped into the hallway, walking down towards where Zara counted. I wanted to leave and run far away from here and go to the comfort of my home. But I couldn't leave them here with that thing roaming around. Coming from under the bed, I slowly crept toward the door and pulled it open slightly. Slowing walking down the hall, turning my head behind me to watch if the creature tried to sneak up on me. I bumped into something hard and stiff. Raising my head up, I saw Hayden turning around and gave me a confused look. "Dude, watch where you're going," he said, brushing his clothes off. I quickly shot up toward my feet and grabbed his arm and tried to pull him toward the stairs. He pushed me back and grabbed my jacket collar. "Man, what the actual fuck is wrong with you?" he said, tightening his grip. We need to leave this fucking place. I just saw something." I stumbled and stuttered over my words. As I said those words, me and Hayden heard screaming down the hall and multiple footsteps. Tammy and Zara raced down the hallway toward us. Hayden loosened his grip on me and put me down and turned near Tammy and Zara. "What the fuck is wrong with you guys?" Hayden said, annoyed and turning his back toward the hall Tammy and Zara came from. "There's something in here, down there, it's big and grayish," Tammy stuttered. Hayden grew more annoyed and walked down the hallway. Tammy claimed to see the creature. He looked down the hall and turned around to us and threw his hands up. "You all are just paranoid. They're naughty." Hayden stopped his sentence before pulling the handgun out his waistband and fired 4 shots. A large sickle plunged into Hayden's chest and cut upwards. His blood splattered over the dirt and moss on the walls and dropped to his knees. A tall, crooked-shaped, long twisted arms, the big smile the man had, or whatever you call it, was big and its sharp teeth pierced its skin. A sickle in one hand and Hayden's decapitated head in the other. The figure twisted itself and opened his jaw, 10 times as wide as any human could, and devoured Hayden's head. The figure set its big round red eyes on us. It licked its weapon covered with Hayden's blood off and walked toward us. "1 bunny down, 3 to go," it said in that same demonic voice. We all ran toward the old rusty steps. In a rush we all tumbled over each other and fell down the steps. Once we all hit the dirty damp floor, I slowly got up and stood up while helping Tammy up. Zara clenched her right ankle. "Tammy, help me with Zara. Hurry." I lashed at her, picking her up and throwing her left arm around my neck, Tammy doing the same with her right arm. We quickly made our way through the halls of the hospital in search of the way we came in. The scraping of metal caught our attention as the figure slowly made its way toward us. The smile growing larger on its face, it quickly picked at its pace. We started running with Zara on our shoulders. Tammy somehow tripped and brought Zara down with her. Zara screaming in pain, Tammy quickly got up and tried pulling her up, but I quickly pulled her back as the figure tried to slash at her. Zara tries crawling away before the figure placed its foot on her back and stabbed her to shreds with its sickle. It took a bite out of her cheek and mauled what was left of her face. "2 bunnies down, 2 to go," it said while stepping on Zara's body. Me and Tammy booked it down the hallway. As we ran, the creature screamed, and it screamed loud. Turning the right corner, the front door was in view. As me and Tammy ran toward the door, footsteps came running toward us. With taking a quick glance behind us, 2 extra of those creatures joined up with the original one and chased us, slowly gaining on us. As they gained on us, I slowly started to slow down as I tried to keep up with Tammy. I reached my hands out and grabbed her shoulders and threw her to the ground. She fell into the wall and the footsteps stopped and screaming came from behind me. I turned around for the last time and saw Tammy reaching her arm out for me as the bit and slashed her. I bursted through the door and slammed it behind me. I nearly tripped down the decrepit steps as I rushed toward my bike. I yanked my bike from the tree and started pedaling as fast as I possibly could. I looked over my shoulder and saw the original creature that killed Hayden and Zara. With its free hand, it held up 3 fingers and smiled so hard its face was deforming. I pedaled to my house without stopping for air. I got home and couldn't sleep at all that night or for the next week. I still couldn't process what happened that night. An investigation was launched, but they never found the bodies. It's been 5 years since that night. I even left my hometown, but it hasn't left my mind at all. The way Tammy looked at me while being mauled to death by whatever those things were. Sometimes, I see her in my dreams tormenting me, asking why I did it. I could never give her a straight answer.